Hello, Joshua Evans. I have a mission to recreate my game on the App Store, Star Shooter, and make that game 100% from scratch with an Arduino. In the last video, I wanted to get the basics of a 2D collision so I can scale up into 3D, and I found that 2D objects can be defined and its bounds can be defined by using triangles, because triangles it's much easier to find the bounds and the collisions of a triangle rather than like a octagon or something, right? But what you can do is use those triangles to create an octagon, and then say if anything collides with any of these triangles that make up this octagon, say that it collided with this octagon. And that's what I was going to do. I want to make it so that I can make any kind of shape, and then it will automatically make all these triangles for me, and then after it makes all these triangles, I am able to collide with it. That was my mission to do over this past week, but I was not able to do it. I think I just don't know how, or maybe it may be impossible. It may be impossible to do. I couldn't figure out how to do it, and I kind of gave up on that, because what I would actually have to do is make a whole nother system, like a whole nother program where I can make these shapes, define the triangles, and then export it to a SD card, and then plug that into my Arduino, and then it can read not only the points, but then also all the triangles, which is that's a lot of work. I'm gonna eventually do it, just not, I couldn't do it over this past week. So what have I been doing instead? Well, I told you what my goal was before, is to recreate this 3D game I have on the App Store, Star Shooter, and make it 100% with an Arduino. And I said I don't need collisions to actually make that game. I don't really need collisions. All I need is, if you ever played the game, it's a gun, and then based on where you click on the screen, the gun rotates and then shoots down the stars. So what I was going to use is a directional button so that you can control this invisible dot, right? This invisible dot that's moving on the screen. The gun will rotate towards that dot, and then if the dot touches, if it's inside of a certain bounds of the star, not really collisions, just saying if it's close to this star and you press down on the directional button, delete the star. So I don't really need collisions to do anything. Nothing's colliding and doing physics or anything. I don't need all that, not really. So I realized I'm not actually missing anything except for colors, and I'm waiting for that screen to come in. So I went ahead and made it. But then I ran into a crazy this issue, lag, and it was just running so slow. It was like a frame every single 2 seconds, and I was like, why in the world am I getting all this lag? What is this coming from? And then I found out that each calculation isn't instantaneous. When you type on a calculator, when you do some crazy thing, you press enter and then it just gives you a right away. But actually what it's doing is that it's all binary. It's all ones and zeros. And there's a clock that tells you, that helps organize and directs the data, kind of thing. And certain calculations take a certain amount of ticks, clock on and off. So it takes a certain amount of ticks. So let's say, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say adding takes like 10, right? This Arduino is a 8 megahertz or 16 megahertz board, so it's able to do like 1 million of those every single second, around 1 million, right? But let's say sine, finding out the digits of sine and multiplying by this number and then finding the square root of this number and then doing all this other stuff, that may take a lot. And if it's not able to complete all those cycles, all those ticks within a second, it just moves on to the next second. If to draw this screen it takes, let's say, 32 million ticks, right? 32 million ticks, and this thing is running at 16 megahertz. It's going to take 2 seconds to run this screen. every single calculation isn't instantaneous, so it's going to take a certain amount of time to actually refresh it. And that's the problem I can't really get away from, because rotating all these points, multiplying by sine, finding the distance and all that stuff is a lot of math, and apparently it's taking, when I add in all the stars and everything, it's taking over 16 million ticks every single second to do this. So it lags. I don't know how I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna need to find a board that has a higher that runs a bit faster. I could try the Teensy, but that's only a little bit faster. That's like, I think 3 times as fast. Yeah, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. But this is the gun right here, rotating towards the point. I don't have all the stars in and everything right now because it's so laggy. But yeah, here it is. Yeah, it's just rotating towards the point. I'm using the inverse tan function to find out where it rotates. And I got the thing. And I also found a way to anchor 2 objects. Because if you have 2 objects and you say rotate towards that point, they're going to be pointing in different directions because they're in different places. But what you can actually do is anchor something. So I can say this bottom square right there, rotate based off of the, rotate itself based on the inverse tan of the middle of the top block. So I can do that, and that's basically anchoring. So they all move together. So yeah. What's my next goal? My next goal, I'm waiting for my screen to come in with the colors, so then I can actually start doing things like reflections maybe, and shading in things, and I don't know. Lighting would be really cool. That's going to get so laggy. Extremely laggy. And then I could also do reflections and specular stuff. That would be really interesting. But that stuff is even harder than the 3D stuff. But yeah, that's the 3D engine. It's pretty cool. You're able to rotate this gun to a point and then shoot it if you want to take it to that point, but it's extremely laggy. What I could actually do is make it so it's not 3D stars in this falling from the sky, because that's a lot of points that it's rotating, and a lot of math, a lot of ticks. I could just have a 2D star fall. Just make that thing fall, and then, I could do that. That would get rid of the lag. Yeah, I could do that. And then actually have real... I need to make an editor. What I really need to do is go into processing and make an editor where I can draw a shape, connect all the triangles, and then say export or something. And then it gives me a file that not only orders all the vertices, all the points where the lines come together, but then also gives me the triangles. So then I could just read that somehow from my Arduino and say, hey, so this defines the ends of the point, and this also defines all the triangles. So then I have the collisions down. Yeah, I think I need to do that, make an editor to make 2D objects. And then maybe, if that works out well, I can make 3D objects. But yeah, this is the gun. This is it rotating to the thing. But yeah, that's it.